A level 1 barbarian is being played by an enthusiastic newcomer to the tabletop RPG space who has been told that, unlike in video games, you can do anything you can think of in a tabletop RPG. So, when his level 1 dwarf barbarian character is surrounded by enemies, he says excitedly, "I take my great axe and swing it in a circle, hitting all of them in one sweep." But as he looks in eager anticipation towards the GM, her face falls, and she replies, "You need a feat for that." Hey everyone, Utkarsh from Spirit Bell Games here. With the recent release of the Daredevil playtest and all of the wonderful and flavorful feats that came with it, the topic has once again arisen about whether you can do cool things in Pathfinder 2nd Edition without a feat. In this video, we will follow the journey of our hypothetical GM as she learns how to respond to an improvised action by something other than you need a feat for that. Now, before we get into that discussion and uncover the various different techniques for adjudicating improvised actions, I want to draw a distinction between two types of feats. Well, feats and features, really. Feats, features, spells, items, maybe even. The first type of feats are what I call enhancers. They take what you can already do and make it either better or faster or both. For example, even a wizard can wield 2 daggers, 1 in each hand, and make 2 attacks at an enemy in front of them. But a fighter with double slice can do the same with better accuracy, and a ranger with a twin takedown feat can do the same with fewer actions. So these are enhancer feats. In contrast to the enhancer feats, we have the unlocker feats. These types of feats unlock a whole new type of ability that you otherwise couldn't do with just your basic actions. For example, the level 16 rogue feat Dispelling Slice, which lets you try and dispel a magic effect on your target by striking them. In this video, I will talk about the enhancer feats and how their effects can be improvised. And in the next video, I will discuss unlocker feats, all of the subjectivity involved in adjudicating those actions or even allowing them, and how messy that can get. If you're a member on Patreon, whether free or paid, then you can find the combined video discussing both halves on there already. So now let's dive into the journey that's taken by our hypothetical GM. She doesn't know yet that the feat Whirlwind Strike exists. So we are going to discuss her options on how she can adjudicate what the Barbarians player is asking without knowledge that a feat for this exists. And we will see what happens later on when she gets the knowledge that a feat for this exists. Okay, the first thing that she can do, and this is something that even GMs who are running for Pathfinder, Starfinder Society can do, is to reflavor existing actions in a way that fulfills the fantasy of what is being asked for. So the thing that the level 1 dwarf barbarian can already do is to make individual strikes against each of the enemies by whom he's surrounded. Now, depending on how many enemies that is, that may extend out his sweep to multiple turns, and obviously the accuracy of it is going to be going up and down over the turns. This is probably not what the player had in mind, but this is a viable option for doing cool things, even from the very beginning. For example, you may not have the Daredevil feat that lets you kick someone in the groin specifically to sicken them, but you can still kick them in the groin by making an unarmed attack against them and get a good laugh at the table out of it. I want to refer here to Titanium Dragon's comment on Reddit, who argues for the existence of bespoke mechanical benefits given to cool actions, and how that does not actually prevent you from doing cool actions in your game without those feats. He says, and I quote, "These feats all give you various mechanical ways of doing these things as a thing for your character. They all have specific mechanical benefits. Slamming someone's head into the wall is normally something you'd be doing as flavor while you're in a fight. Getting specific mechanical benefits for it is something you need to take a feat for." So this first technique, which is just reflavoring, is something that anyone can do at any point in their GMing journey. If you're just starting out, you know just the basic actions, you can use them to reflavor enhancer feats, or things that you don't even know are feats or not, to allow your player characters to do the cool stuff in combat. But it is quite likely that this is not what the player had in mind when they said they wanted to swing their great axe in an arc. So what if the player says to our hypothetical GM, can't I get some kind of a different mechanical effect for doing a single slice all around? So the GM thinks about it and says, okay, just for now, I'll issue a rule of cool ruling and say that you can swing your great axe in a circle around you. It'll be an AoE with a basic reflex save with your weapon's damage as the damage of this effect. How does that sound? The player gets excited and says, yeah, that sounds great. That's exactly what I want to do. But then the GM, being smart and having run other TTRPGs before, says, okay, yes, but I want to be clear that I'm not establishing a precedence for the future. This is right now just in the moment for this one instance, a rule of cool ruling. So the player again nods, goes ahead with it. The slice of the great axe is a resounding success as 2 of the goblins go down, but 1 of them is still up, but with half its HP. And the barbarian is very satisfied. Now, you and I, having played Pathfinder for long enough, know that this was a very powerful ability given to the barbarian without any kind of mechanical permissions. But there is a time and place for this type of ruling, which is when you want to be encouraging cool new ideas from your players and also to keep the game moving forward. What this requires is trust that in the future, when you may adjust the ruling downward to be more appropriate, that the players will not sulk. And this is what our wise GM does. Once the session is done, she re-examines the ruling in between sessions, and she realizes that without having any special mechanical permission, this was way too powerful a way for the barbarian to just fully bypass the multiple attack penalty, and also to deal partial damage when the enemies succeed on their reflex save, because that's what a basic save does. So in the next session, she goes to the barbarian player with the refined version of the ruling. She says, this is what we are going to do going forward if you want to do this kind of thing again, which is, first of all, you can only deal half of your weapon's damage dice on a failed reflex save. You don't get half of that damage, so quarter damage if the enemies succeed on the save, and you don't get double the damage if the enemies critically fail the save. Now this is a significant nerf compared to the rule of cool one-time ruling, and the barbarian's player is wont to sulk, as is their right. I might add, as a player, yes, nerfs always feel bad. This is why I think Paizo starts off with a lower baseline of power than many other TTRPGs, because nerfs feel way worse than correcting upwards. But if they are a good player, they will accept the ruling and come around to it. Or they might engage in a little bit of bargaining. They may say that, okay, maybe if I don't have any feats for this, this is how it will be. But what if there was a feat? There's no feat for this at level 1, but what if there was a feat that I could take? And then that would mean I'm mechanically investing in this option. So the GM then thinks about this and she says, okay, you know what? If you want to be doing this again and again, let us come up with a feat that lets you do this action. And with the feat, you can now also deal double damage if the enemies critically fail. The player then considers this and says, well, that's not too different from not having a feat. So maybe I will just not take the feat and keep doing this again and again. And the GM decides that to make the feat seem more enticing, she is going to nerf the improvised non-feat version of it and says, well, okay, if you do the non-feat version of your Great Axe Sweep, now I'm going to say that you can only do it once every minute. So then again, the player may pout, as is their right to, but if they are an understanding player, they can come around to the idea that, okay, yes, without the feat, there's now a frequency limitation and the damage is being tamped down to only the success tier, which is going to be half of the weapon's damage. But if they take the feat, then that frequency goes away and they can do half the weapon's damage on enemies failing and the full weapon's damage on enemies critically failing. They say, okay, yeah, sure. I will go with the feat. Or maybe they say, nah, this was just a one-off action. But regardless of what they do, we have already seen our hypothetical GM use 3 different techniques to adjudicate an improvised action without saying you can't do that because you need a feat for it. The first technique was to reflavor existing basic actions. The second technique was to issue a rule of cool in the moment ruling, but with the caveat that it does not establish precedents for future uses of this ability. And the third technique is to then refine this rule of cool ruling into something that can be used either without mechanical permission, so just improvising it every single time, or with a custom feat. Or she might create a custom item that lets the barbarian player do this with some additional amount of frequency. But all of these types of adjudication have taken place without the knowledge that the level 14 feat Whirlwind Strike exists. And the Whirlwind Strike feat says that the fighter or barbarian can make a strike against any number of creatures of their choice within reach, and the multiple attack penalty only increases after they've completed all of their strikes. So what would you and I do if we were asked to adjudicate for this level 1 barbarian player and we knew that the Whirlwind Strike feat exists? Well, what we can do is we can use the template of the Whirlwind Strike feat and modify that instead of coming up with brand new mechanics of our own. And this is how feats, instead of being blockers to improvisation, can become templates and guideposts for improvising within a mechanically complex system. Because the Whirlwind Strike feat already knows, it has done the work of knowing the system to know that AoE, area effects, are actually a protected niche, that there are special weaknesses that trigger off of hitting an area, and also that the fighter and the barbarian don't have class DCs that scale particularly well. So doing a basic reflex save may end up being unsatisfying in a different way as the game goes on. And this is all design work that I now no longer have to do because I know that that feat exists. So instead, to my level 1 barbarian, I can say that, well, if you do that, you have to make a strike against all adjacent creatures. So not just creatures that are enemies, but all that are adjacent to you. And you also don't get to use your full reach. You just get to make them against adjacent creatures, and you deal half the damage you normally would. So the existence of the Whirlwind Strike feat makes it easier for me to issue a rule of cool ruling, to refine it, and to create a feat for it at a lower level if I wanted to. The thing to keep in mind, especially when issuing a ruling on the spot, is you want the mechanical output to be as much as possible a side grade of doing basic actions instead of being a strict upgrade. Now the player who made that swing with the Great Axe wanted some kind of a mechanical distinction from just making strikes. But if they are an understanding player, they need not want this distinction to be a strict upgrade over making individual strikes. They may settle for something that's a side grade, in this case by dealing half damage. Or you may decide that lowering the accuracy of every single strike makes more sense. So the strike is made against all creatures but with a -3 penalty. Or you can combine them, or you can add a frequency limitation. But as long as you are making a mechanical side grade using your judgment to the basic actions, you are issuing a ruling that is in keeping, I believe, with the spirit of the system. And if you ever wonder whether you're going above the expected power curve, then all you need to do is find an appropriate feat. And if a feat exists for it, and you have given power equivalent or better than that feat, you know you have gone over. So, all in all, don't be afraid to allow cool actions in combat. Use a combination of reflavoring, side grade, mechanical improvisation, and creating special feats and items for your players to give them an experience that fits with their fantasy. And use the constellation of feats that Pathfinder provides as your guideposts in issuing these improvised rulings. So this is the end of the video when it comes to feats that are just enhancing basic actions by making them faster or more accurate or both. In the next video, I'll discuss feats, features, and spells that seem to unlock whole new abilities that are just not available with the basic actions. Things do get messier when we discuss those, so I look forward to diving into that more difficult discussion there. For now, this is me signing off, wishing you all engaging games.